for today's cup of coffee with Scream. It's been a day of pondering. We're getting ready to come up on a new moon. All this stuff, all the planets are doing just general mess with the peoples. They messing with me hard. They've been messing with me hard for a while.
Is that why I've been waking up feeling like it's been a deep sleep, or not even a deep sleep? I don't remember the dreams from it, but damn it, I wake up and I'm like, oh, I've got no rest.
Yeah, I think so. And it's like that. I have wisdom. Whoever those people are, who are they?
Who are you?
But it's
who are you?
Accurate. It's accurate.
You're too damn accurate.
Yeah.
Who are you? What are you?
Not every
are
single
you they?
time. I think they post daily. And like I said, I thought at first it was just AI. What do you call it?
AI slop?
Yeah. But there's something more to that. Yeah.
Who are you?
Uncannily, accurate.
Who are you?
It's just weird.
Yeah.
But somehow in the internet travels today, and I went on a conversation with Grok as far as sensory deprivation, and we know that there were a ton of studies done about that. And what triggered that thought was watching the Why Files, and they did one. What was the name of it? The Midnight Game?
Yeah, or it's Midnight Man or something.
So whatever it is. And he was mentioning on there that a lot of times with sensory deprivation, that one of the first things that people do is they will sense a presence.
Yeah. They will sense a presence. They will get chills.
Yeah. And so
cold.
Of course he tries he tries to totally debunk all that stuff. I think a lot of this stuff doesn't need to be debunked.
Did he debunk it?
To a degree, enough to satisfy him. Other people who've had paranormal experiences, they're like, yeah. But now he did have a paranormal experience as far as the old hag.
Yeah. When was that?
I don't know. He said he did a video about it. I didn't go back. I'm sure I have watched it at some point. I usually keep up with what he produces, but it was interesting. And I got to thinking,
he gets the old hag, and I get fucking zebra dude.
Yeah. Now his was a full-on experience. I mean, he was not asleep, and yeah, it's amazing how people will gaslight themselves.
Yeah.
And others because they do not want to accept the fact that the realm of spirit exists. But anyhow, also with the conversation with Grok, he was talking about, and I don't know if I can still find it, if I've got the conversation pulled up or not, as far as sensory overstimulation.
Uh-huh.
And
that is a thing.
Yeah, there are those of us that have the ADHD and people that's on the spectrum. And there's something that's a sensory processing disorder and also high stress environments. And my question was, are the effects on the brain similar to those as far as somebody experiencing sensory deprivation? And there was some correlation, not totally, but unless you ask, you don't know.
That is true.
So it was interesting. And he was talking about as far as high stress environments, urban settings, also virtual reality.
So online, basically.
That is considered a high stress environment, virtual reality.
It is.
And multitasking scenarios, which goes back to the ADHD.
Yeah.
And said that the effects of sensory overstimulation can be increased stress and anxiety. It can impair cognitive function, cause neural hyperactivity, and it says neural imaging studies show overactivation in sensory cortices and reduced regulation of by prefrontal areas under overstimulation. Reduced regulation by prefrontal areas. Think of some of the people and some of the behaviors that they have in these urban environments.
Yeah. And it's just adding something to the chaos.
Uh-huh. And also
already existing chaos.
as far as it can trigger sensory shutdown or avoidance, and especially with folks that are on the spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely, yeah. I get that.
So interesting stuff. And as far as said, while direct studies comparing sensory deprivation and overstimulation are limited, there's other people like me out there. Some correlations emerge, such as sensory processing sensitivity. All these S's, I'm glad I've got a little bit of a spit guard here. And individuals with high sensory processing sensitivity, SPS, may be more susceptible to both deprivation and overstimulation as their brains struggle to modulate sensory input. And there is a cites research by Aaron et al. From 2012 on that. And a homeostatic regulation, the brain seeks a balance of sensory input. Extreme deprivation can heighten sensitivity to stimuli, making subsequent overstimulation more intense, while overstimulation may make deprivation more distressing due to adaptation to high sensory load. And that's from Glick and Mason in 2018. And then a neurological overlap. Both conditions affect similar brain regions like the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The amygdala is your emotional center. Prefrontal cortex, that has to do with cause and effect, rational thought, suggesting shared pathways in sensory dysregulation.
See, this shit, it's hitting home for me because it's like a lot of these symptoms, for a long time is what I've been experiencing. And so it's like, shit.
Well, and that's just like Kid and I, anyhow, as far as with planetary alignments, hermit mode.
Yeah.
And reduction of, stimulation and stuff like that. Which is odd because ADHD people, usually we need that. It keeps us feeling kind of sane.
Well, this morning I went on my phone a little bit, but not immediately like I normally do. My TV was off. I didn't even sleep to music last night. All that shit really didn't do much of nothing all morning.
So it's interesting, but for the people who have to have the overstimulation, what happens when their electricity goes out? And Grok suggested, well, that's what I wondered, and I think it depends on what exactly the problem is. And Grok said that a lot of people, as far as, this is why it's always good to have coping mechanisms handy in case.
Yeah.
If you can read a book by an LED light or whatever, one of those little camping lights.
Yeah.
Transistor radios.
Yeah.
Board games, different things like that.
Yeah. That's when hobbies really help.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was talking about as far as the stimming exercises, that's when what triggers a lot of people into the stimming exercises. Some of them could be like humming or different things like that. But it would just be an interesting, not suggesting that it would be a good thing, as far as an extended power outage in some of these urban areas. I think that it would be like the purge.
Oh, fully. Yeah. It would fully be like the purge. They would go into chaos, even more chaos.
And it's just like, I saw a video today that, and I think it was a store, there was a building that somebody decided to blow it up from the outside. It was like a truck bomb or something like that. And it did damage the building, but not horribly. But one of the nearby buildings was also damaged, and people were going in there looting.
People don't know how to act.
Well. So you got to wonder what would happen on some of these things.
Yeah.
And where I laugh about being nerd mode And there's a difference between, I have a moon in Gemini, that's what it is, and we've got stuff in Gemini. I think it's moon is coming up in Gemini, or it's Gemini season.
Yeah.
Something. It is something.
It's definitely a thing.
And I was laughing to kid about how the term nerd has changed since the 80s. And the movie
Nerd.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Nerd.
And my God,
Nerd.
it was just, in some ways, very accurate. It was, in a lot of ways, accurate. Because now, nerd does not have the same stigma, and some of the nerds are not. There's almost a cool factor to nerd. There is
because
still
they can get style now.
There is a difference between nerd and geek. Usually the term geek was for the computer peoples. Back in the 80s, it was all just nerd.
Yeah.
There was no distinction.
See, that's the thing. Nerd, usually the computer people are right there in with the nerds. Mm-hmm. They are a nerd.
But there, over the years, there has been redemption as far as those people. And I told Kid, I said, no, you don't understand the difference between nerds back in the 80s versus some of the nerds today.
Yeah. They definitely ain't the same.
No.
Nerds now are not the same in the slightest.
No. I mean, and it's like, even as far as with the understanding that certain peoples have neuro differences, the neurospicy people.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. Mm-hmm. Not everybody learns to socialize easily. It needs to be encouraged. It needs to be taught. It is a skill that most can learn. Not everybody.
Right.
And it's a sad thing. There's a lot of sad things out there. Internet has brought forth both help and harm to certain peoples.
I think it's where it certainly has brought both help and harm. I think it's where people they don't regulate their time on it. Because back in the day, people still did. Like, I'm talking, when I say back in the day, shit, when I was a kid, people still regulated their time on the computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you still had parents that would help you regulate your time on the computer, too.
I'm talking about adults.
Yeah.
People were still able to control themselves as far as how much they were on the computer, because dial-up helped with that a lot.
Yes. God, the days of dial-up. You learned to deal with frustration.
The people were not willing to sit there the whole time.
No.
You had, with dial-up, you were basically forced to get up and do something else in the meantime while it was loading.
Yes.
And even when Wi-Fi first came along, to the majority of consumers, it was still slow. Mm-hmm. So you had to wait.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like it is today. The computers were not necessary.
Right. That's the thing. Now there is a reliance on technology and computers and stuff like that. And that is the con of becoming reliant on technology.
Oh, yeah.
Is that you are constantly bombarded by not only frequencies, you're bombarded by noise.
Mm-hmm. And it is a source of overstimulation.
Mm-hmm. Constant.
Yeah. And that was one thing, oldest kid that he plays, what is it? Is it Final Fantasy? Is that the game that he plays all the time? Or what is the name of that?
I mean, he certainly has played Final Fantasy.
I mean, it's the one where they have those...
He plays League of Legends.
League of Legends, I think
also,
is what I'm trying to think of.
I don't even know if he plays League that much anymore. I know his wife plays League all the time, but...
But the amount, if you've never seen this game, the first couple of times I looked at it, I'm like, it is such chaos. Because I told him, I said, my God, you are in a state of chronic overstimulation of your brain by playing this for an extended period of time.
Yeah. Those games are there's a lot going on and a lot that you have to do at the same time. There's a lot of button mashing.
Uh-huh. It's not, it's a matter of paying attention to this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, when people do that all the time, I don't think they realize the amount of input that's going into their brain.
Right.
They think of it as normal, and it's not.
Yeah, but little do they know that it's short-circuiting their brains.
Yes.
That,
This is why go out and touch grass.
yes. And if you do play games, personally for me, one of my favorite type of games is the things that actually make you take your time, and it does not rush you. There is not any actual gameplay. It is basically a glorified walking simulator.
Why not go out and walk?
Because you cannot explore surrealism in real life most of the time. You cannot explore dream worlds in reality.
Age of Aquarius. Wait till it gets kicked in here thoroughly. Yeah.
Well, you would just have to see,
Yeah.
like close to liminal type spaces. I like that stuff because I do.
Of course you do, Pisces.
Yeah, I like dreamlike worlds that you can just walk around. You can actually explore. You don't have to rush. You
Right.
can just soak it in. Atmospheric. I like very atmospheric games like that. But, I mean, I do like high-action games. I never could get into League, World of Warcraft, RuneScape. I never could get into many games like that. MMOs are definitely not one of my things, where you have to constantly grind.
Well, that's no longer fun. And for me, with the ADHD, if I am listening to, like, Leo King or Robert Phoenix or somebody like that, to have one of these mindless match games. Now, I will sit there and mess with that game while I'm listening, and it helps me listen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm still doing, and that's ADHD brain is not like normal people brain. No. To just sit and focus on some lecture or something. My God, I wish I had a fidget something when I was in college. I wish I had Stratera when I was in college. Yeah. My world could have been different. But to do some of those things, and how it's weird because as an adult who was diagnosed with the ADHD, which I wasn't, it was just a matter of going, hey, I have this. It was the awareness and asking, healthcare providers and stuff. Went to a seminar. I was sitting in a room with other mental health professionals and noticed that as the speaker was speaking, there was a lady that was drawing these little, just doodles. Mm-hmm. And she would draw the doodles and she would color the doodles. And I'm like, I wonder what she's doing. And it was a matter, I guarantee you, it was some things like that are tools to help people with ADHD focus.
Yeah.
But with how the world has gone, have the nerds truly gotten the revenge? I think they have.
To an extent, yeah. Yeah. But also to sort of go into that, like sitting at the seminar with the little doodles and stuff like that, having ADHD. Shit, when I was in school, I would get bitched at for doodling in class, even though I was still actively listening.
Right.
It's just, it helped me tune more into what they were saying.
Well, some of the people that are supposed to understand how kids learn know the least about how kids learn. And that you've got some of these people that are supposed to be professionals and be trained in these things, and there was no excuse for it. Mm-mm. I'm not going to make excuses for bad behavior. And there's a lot of kids that have fallen through the cracks educationally.
Yeah, but the thing, and adults do the same shit a lot of the time,
Right.
Stuff that works for them while they're in school, like the doodling while listening to them. Mm-hmm. Like the seminar, it helps focus on those people, on what they're actually saying. Right. It helps get that stuff to sink in.
Sometimes it can. And it can be that there are some people that at a certain point, they can't follow the conversation or whatever, and they get frustrated, and then they just do their own little thing. They sort of go into their own little world.
Yeah, well, usually they have missed something and it has thrown them completely off track.
Yeah. So those are the people that have to work, and whether it's a learning environment, a work environment, try to find out why people are doing what they're doing and communicate. That is one thing about Gemini. It is about communications. If you ask someone, more than likely, and if you ask them in a correct way, not an accusatory way, they'll tell you, and you can find a solution, or hopefully find a solution.
Mm-hmm.
But the 80s nerds, that movie, like I said, it was so representative of the time. And as I was telling kid, now, as far as the frat boys and stuff like that, and the sororities chicks, and I know it's going to vary from, place to place, were they pretty much like that? Yes.
Yeah, the majority of them
I avoided them.
The majority of them are douchebags.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It just is. And as far as the Jockoramas, you had them, and it's like, now, there were people that, just because you're an athlete doesn't mean you have to be an asshole.
Yeah, but usually that comes with the territory.
Sometimes.
Douchebag.
Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. I mean, that one guy that was on the football team down at ETSU, and he was one of their big players. The boy was functionally illiterate. For real. He was my buddy. He and I dressed similarly at the time. But
a lot of the time, the people that are in the football teams, that are part of the jocks, part of the frats, they're dumb as rocks.
Yeah. And it's like, it does no one any good to keep passing them, because at some point, the percentage of people that go on to play professional sports it's very slim. Yeah. And even of that group, the ones who make a career of it for any length of time, that's a slimmer margin. They did him no favors, because at this point, he's another one at 60 years old or more. Where the hell is he now?
Right. Well, that's the thing. People fall into these traps where it's like, oh, they peaked in high school, and that's literally, they peaked in high school and they had no other goal after that. They had no other shit.
Yeah, which is really sad. But the nerds, a lot of these people, it was one of those, like I said, I was a metalhead. I was a train wreck, was what I was.
Yeah.
And I would scare not intentionally scaring the people. I didn't intentionally scare the nerds.
I don't think you were a train wreck. I think that you were
I was
a
train wreck. I was a train wreck.
But, I mean, that literally is like, you tell me that earlier, and it's like, my mom is a badass.
No, your mama was, like I said, she was a train wreck back in the day. But you had, in college, you've got different departments, and they don't always interact. And especially after you get in your major and whatever, you don't see people from other departments that often. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the poor little nerds, and they're probably, millionaires. Whatever at this point.
A lot of the nerds have autism.
They do. And a lot of, I'm really glad that a lot of the stigma about autism, and even with the ADHD to a degree, is going away.
That's because they're realizing more people have autism.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, some of the older people are the ones that's like, none of this stuff exists. You just need to sit down and have They have no idea what it's like living inside a neurospicy world at all.
No, they don't. That's... Gen Z gets pissed off with those older people when they pull that bullshit real fast.
Yeah. I can see why. But yeah, the nerds have some cool fact. I mean, look at Elon. Elon's a cool dude.
Now, you know for a fact, I bet you, how much you want to bet that Gary Newman was a nerd?
He is a nerd. I'm
talking about in high school. He was a nerd.
Oh, he probably was. And it's like, he has Asperger's. I love Gary Newman.
And look at him now.
He's always been awesome. Yeah. There's quite a few people that, I'd like to think that the ones who deserved good karma got some good karma, and that at least they don't do the pocket protectors anymore. People really did do that. They really did that.
Is that like the thing that you put in your shirt pocket that holds all the pins and stuff like that?
It is.
That's
a pocket protector. Yeah. They really did that. They really, and the people with the bag comb overs, and not necessarily when they were in college, but yeah. Yeah. There's hope.
Nerds now that where stuff is readily available. Nerds now that they can get away with the shit because they got style.
Some of them. And some of them just need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
It's like adopt a nerd.
Adopt a nerd today.
I think it's what OnlyFans is. I really do. But
adopt a nerd?
Yes. Everybody is having paranormal. Everybody is having the supernatural.
Adopt an incel today.
You know that these people have already got as far as the robot partners. They have, I heard a statistic, there's hundreds of orders, pre-orders already on that stuff.
Mama.
What?
Literally.
Yeah.
I've used... Being online, you hear and see a lot of stuff.
Yes.
You don't necessarily want to, but there are some of these people, they're into anime. Mm-hmm. Some of these nerds.
Oh God.
And they got the body pillows. They got the posters. They got the little figurines.
Yeah.
They got the little digital desktop waifu.
Those kind leave them in the basements. Seriously. There's no hope. Yeah.
Literally, just shut the door.
Age of Aquarius.
You put the food tray on the top step.
Yeah. You want to tell the people where we can be found.
You can find us on BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube at Rolanda's Cup of Coffee with Scream. Also, check her out on X at brain short circuited. Check her out on X, previously known as Twitter, at Rolanda COCWS.
Yeah, I'm over there.
Thank you all for joining us. Have a good.
He's over there too. What is it? Zamboni.
My Zombini alien. You know, it's close to Zamboni, so
yeah,
you know.
The Zamboni machine. That is a cool thing.
Damn it, now I gotta change it again.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Anyhow, know that you are loved. Treat other people the way you would like to be treated, and Lord willing, we'll see you on the next cup.
Yep.
Bye.